I would like to start off by asking Mr. Partha Bhattacharyya here a question. Not very often do we find a captain of industry of your eminence write about their experience. So I would like to ask you first, what led you to writing this book, which is, of course, when coal became gold, as she told you.
Thank you, Deepak. If I may address you,
Please.
It's a very interesting question. And to put it very frankly, you see, I joined Coal India absolutely at the grassroots level as a management training way back in 1977. I was consistently doing good work, getting promotions in time, but the work was not something on which can become the material of a book. It could be material of some articles maybe, but nothing to write a book for the first 24 years, or rather 26 years. As long as I was in finance, I grew in finance and went on to become the director of finance of one of the subsidiaries of Coal India, which is Western Coalfields. Till that time, nothing very exciting or earth-shattering really happened, which merits writing a book. All that changed in 2003 when I was selected to become the chairman cum managing director of one of the absolutely poorest company of Coal India, that is Bharat Coking Coal Limited. This is a company based out of Dhanbad, and I think nobody has a great image about Dhanbad, so people can think about it. I mean, it's a company where you hear all these kinds of mafia, this, that, everything. And the company had a track record of never earning any profit any time over the past few years. It was formed in 1971, and I'm talking about 2003. So 32 years gone by. It had only accumulated losses to the tune of 7,000 crores. And honestly, there was no idea as to what is to be done about this company. In fact, I still remember in the interview when I was asked, I was taken as a very lightweight candidate because normally in such kind of difficult mining companies, this is the mining engineer's prerogative. They are supposed to be the CMDs. So when I was asked, Mr. T.K. Nair, who was later the Principal Secretary to Prime Minister, he was chairing the PSB meeting. So he asked this question there, are you aware of the problem of the company? The production is falling like a stone. What will you do going there? I don't know what inspired me to say this. I just said that is just a manifestation of a problem. That's not the problem. The problem is elsewhere. The company has been in BIFR for the last 4 years, and still it hasn't been able to produce a plan of action. So there is somewhere consensus is lacking as to what is to be done. And that is a bigger problem. And these are manifestations. So then the question, the whole conversation turned into what do you think is the capability required to enforce consent, build this kind of consensus? I said simple consensus building capability of a high order. So they asked me, do you have that? I gave them a couple of examples and the job was mine. But once I got the job, my very senior people in the company, particularly in Western Coalfields, senior mining engineers, they were simply lamenting. Where are you getting into and what kind of a situation you will be in? So when I went there, I found that very interesting thing. Very interesting thing was that the earlier CMDs, they were not staying in the designated bungalow of the CMD. The CMD's bungalow was a huge bungalow on the main road, but deserted. He was staying in one of the director's bungalow inside the main campus. The basic idea was not to be identified as a CMD of that company because the company was not in a position to pay wages in time. They were not paying to the suppliers in time. They were not paying to the security guys in time. None of the payments were in time. Huge liabilities had piled up. And it was completely at a loss. So from there, things started turning. I still remember the first thing that I took up was the employee's salary, they were disbursed on the 28th or 29th, the one that is due on 1st. Somehow or other, even the Provident Fund contribution of the employees were not deposited, neither the employer's contribution. That was a part of working capital. So this kind of a situation, I mean, it is simply not sustainable. But then I had to tell something to somebody. So I convened a meeting of the trade unions, and in that meeting, the trade union was very strong. So I said that, I made a presentation, PowerPoint presentation. I was slightly rebuked, saying, the CMD sahab, cinema dikha raha hai. So I said, just hear me out. And then I mentioned that, you see, if the situation goes on like this for one more year, we will not be able to pay 12 net salaries in a year. And at that point in time, we will not be speaking like this on both sides of the table. On one side of the table will be you all with me on one side, and on the other side will be all my employees who are 100,000 in number. And they're going to ask this question, why are you not in a position to pay the salaries within the month? At that point in time, since I have come only 6 months back, I'll not answer, you will answer. Are you okay to do that? So then they said, what is the solution? And the solution is just to move salary payment from top priority to third priority. Make it priority number 3. And they said, what is priority number 2 then? I said, payment for such supplies without which production cannot happen. Production halting or safety items have to be prioritized, much above salary. That's it. Somebody very intelligently started saying, what is the second priority? He was talking from one side. So I had an answer for that, fortunately, and that's what saved me. I said the Provident Fund dues of the previous month's salary has to be deposited for the employees to be entitled to get the wages of this month. And you have to agree to that. So that's how the journey started. I don't want to elaborate much further, but lots of things happened in BCCL, and BCCL finally turned around after 2.5 years. That propelled me to the hot seat in Coal India. And I think the BCCL story is a great story. I have actually kept a chapter on that particular subject, and I'm very happy and satisfied about it. That was the first incident which led me to think that I should be writing a book. And after that, once I came to Coal India, in 4.5 years, it was a tenure of 4.5 years, particularly in the 4th year, I was destined to get the opportunity of leading the largest IPO of India at that time. And that was a blockbuster IPO. Everybody knows that the IPO was great, but very few people know what made it great. I thought that there is a good case to write about that. And these are the 2 reasons for which the book has seen the light of the day.
Well, let me then sort of, go on to the next one, which is, you just referred to as the phenomenal success of the Coal India public issue in 2010. Would you like to say a few words about it? The book has a kind of ball-by-ball description of this, apart from other things. So perhaps you would like to...
I'll be very happy to do that. See, the company was really not known for the right reasons. The people heard about the company whenever there was a coal crisis. Power stations not getting coal, that is the usual thing. Or coal supply to power stations affected. Otherwise, a little stray here and there, some kind of thing. People didn't know that this is actually the bedrock of sustainability of the energy systems in the country. How many people know about this? This light here you are seeing, behind this there is a coal. Do we realize? We don't realize. We don't care to realize. But that's a fact. And this company has actually done wonders. To my mind, there is no other company in the country with a strategic relevance as high as Coal India. But let that be apart. The thing is that it has to be said. It has to be told. And the telling rightly held the key to that IPO success. So that's what we started thinking right from the beginning. Once the IPO was thrust on us, it arose because we were given the Navratna status. And normally Navratna status is given only to a listed PSU. Now this was not listed. So it came with a condition that within 3 years, you have to get yourself listed. That was the condition. So once that condition came, It was about 3 years' time, means 2011. I would have retired by then. I would have just retired by then. So I thought that okay. But then I thought that it will be the greatest disservice to the company if I don't do the IPO within my tenure. So then we started dipstick surveys. And we found that there are huge misconceptions, huge. Internationally, we did dipsticks across the world. There were couple of issues which are absolutely major. And I would like to take this opportunity to tell one or two of them. The first one was that in terms of man productivity, because we had at that time 500,000 people all over Coal India. So with that 500,000 people, the manpower productivity is one of the lowest in the world. What's your answer to that? So we coined answers. In fact, all these questions we deliberated internally, then came back with answers, and not only answers, with a proper presentation which addressed all these things. So the answer to this particular question was, you have to look at it as total factor productivity. If you plot the cost of production of all coal companies in the world, listed, unlisted, whatever it is, and create a cost curve, you will find Coal India on the bottom decile. Which means, in terms of cost of production rupees per ton, we are one of the lowest. It inversely means that in terms of total factor productivity, we are one of the highest. That's the corollary. I mean, these two things are related like that. So that sort of met with a proper answer to that question.
Let me proceed then. You know, the issue, of course, as we know, was a kind of a phenomenal success. When subscribers subscribed from Sydney to San Francisco, as you put it in your book. Were you happy with the pricing of the issue at the end of the day?
In fact, pricing was the most satisfactory part of the whole thing. Because during that year, when the government put the Coal India IPO, budgeted for the Coal India IPO, it was 10,000 crores for 10%, which worked out to a price of roughly 175 rupees per share. When we started the marketing part of it, the Indian marketing, we concluded, that time the valuation came to somewhere around, for 10%, it came to about 12,500, which means the company was valued by the Bombay-based investors at 1,25,000 crores. By the time we went into the international leg, second time and all that, we felt that there is a good possibility of benchmarking our price with the average of the listed coal companies in the world. So that worked out to about 200 rupees or 210 rupees per price, and something like 13,000 crores for 10%, 1,30,000 crores valuation for the company as a whole. Later, we became a little more passionate about it. We were getting excellent feedback from the investors. So we said, why not benchmark with the best performing coal company in the world, which was China Shenhua, a Chinese company. And when we did that, the price worked out about 238 per share. I mean, jumped from 210 to 238. The company became valued at about 1,50,000 crores. So that is where the price was set ultimately. In fact, price was set a little higher than that, at 245. And on the day of listing, we were absolutely surprised. It was listed at a premium of 40% above that. So in terms of EV/EBITDA ratio, Coal India on that day was far superior to the best performing coal company in the world by a margin of not less than 35 to 40%. So it's a very satisfactory pricing, I would say.
Well, let me now move on. You know, behind the success of the CIL share issue, of course, there is a much longer story. And that's the story of transformation of a huge behemoth, a huge big company. And this transformation must have involved very, very careful thought, planning, and action on various parameters, right from all stakeholders. So would you like to elaborate on the transformatory process that you had initiated and you saw through it to its ultimate success?
It would not be very right to say that I have initiated the transformation process. It began much before me. In fact, one of the stories that we mentioned to the investors and which really, took them by, I would say, awe, admiration, or surprise, whatever way you want to describe it, was the fact that this company actually performed exactly in line with the mandate received from the government right from the beginning. It was nationalized in 1971 in a situation where coal production needed to grow fast. It was not growing. So the mandate was, here is money for your projects, please take money, but please grow. During the first 15 years of the company turned the growth rate from sub 2% to plus 5%. So that was the contribution of that generation of management. Later in 1991,
how many minutes more do we have? Excuse me? Was that a kind of time warning? Now? I don't.
But this is only 20 minutes. I was told 40 minutes. This is 20 minutes. Exactly.
Okay.
We are just halfway through.
Yes.
Okay. So
you were talking about the transformation process that you masterminded.
Yeah. During the 90s, the first jhatka that came was government stopped budgetary support and said that you have to fend for yourself. That was the major issue that came up. And during that period, the company carried out internal reforms, which were of the highest order. I don't have time to describe the reforms. But because of those reforms, the company's transformation process gained steam, and it became a profitable company. It took an uphill, and it became a very good company, but at the same time, profitable, but at the same time, didn't earn any of the ratnas. I mean, didn't earn any of the, those, the mini ratna, navaratna kind of things. That happened during my time. When I came in 2006, the first media interaction that I had, I just told everybody that I want to see this company admired by every stakeholder by the end of my tenure. I'm fortunate that something like that really happened. We took action on every front. We took action on suppliers, on the vendors, the consumers, employees, government, society, everywhere. I'd just like to mention one point here. One of the major questions asked during the IPO investor meet was that you have a reputation of degrading land. You degrade land so much. So we said that this deserves a proper answer. And the proper answer, for that answer, what we did was we tied up with National Remote Sensing Agency. We asked them to take annual photographs, pictures, satellite pictures of the open cast mines. And the top 50 of the open cast mines, which contribute about 85% of the total production, they were mapped. The project officers were told that you are under satellite surveillance, so perform or perish. The outcome of that was such, after 1 year we found all 50 mines are compliant. They all were advised to go for 14001 ISO. 53 mines received ISO 14001, and that was one of the fantastic statements we could make in the RHP. And that turned the investor attention towards us, that this is a company which believes in environment.
Right. We have a time constraint, but for the young faces that I see, this book, does describe this process of transformation in some detail. So you would, I am sure, find it very instructive to do that. Let me now move on to my next question, and which is about the future. Now a lot of people think that the importance of coal will rapidly decline in the times to come, and we have. India is a party to all the commitments that we have given on environmental control, etc. So, we would like your views on those aspects about the way forward, and how do you see coal in the overall scheme of energy situation in India?
Absolutely right. Actually, you see, coal will have to go. There is no doubt about it. When is the question? Now, various countries have given various roadmaps. Most of the countries are attempting to get it done by 2050. Of course, I have great doubts, because with all these wars, etc., continuing, we are nowhere near the temperature of 1.5 degrees which we had committed. That has gone far away. But anyway, Formally, most countries are attempting 2050. China is attempting 2060. We have committed 2070 as the year of turning net zero, which means by and large, by that time, coal should not be there. Now, with India, there is one fundamental problem which requires Indian roadmap for energy, for coal, to be very different from the rest of the world. See, the per capita consumption is one of the very important metrics which guides the energy pathway. For us, it is as low as 1,538, as per the last assessment. China, a very comparable country in terms of population, has reached a level of 6,000. The world average is about 3,500. Advanced countries are 6,000 plus. So we are not in a situation where if we create renewable capacity, we are creating renewable capacity at a fairly fast pace. But that is not creating an ability to phase out fossil fuel-based capacity because we are at such a low level of per capita consumption. Both will have to grow. Both will have to grow for the next 20 to 25 years at least. So we see our inflection point happening somewhere around 2047, which is the 100 years of independence. We become Vikshit Bharat. And that is when we become developed enough so that the addition of renewable capacity creates a facility for phasing out fossil fuel-based capacity. But before that, both will have to grow and we have to live with that for quite some time. The problem is that this is completely reverse or completely non-aligned to the way the energy sector will map out in advanced countries. So there could be huge headwinds for increasing coal usage for us. Maybe we have to deal with that by trying to mitigate the emission impact of coal usage much better.
Right. Let me then come to the final point that I wanted your views on. Interestingly, this book, the foreword of this book is written by no other than the departed President of India, Pranab Kumar Mukherji. So would you like to tell us about the background to it and his interest in coal? Because he's written some interesting thing about coal being the hero of your book, which it is in many ways. Perhaps you would tell us about the connection.
See, basically, Pranab Mukherji was the finance minister when the IPO was taken up. And his support was huge for the... I'll just list out a couple of things where he made the difference to the IPO. The first one was immediately when the IPO was announced, there was a countrywide strike announced by the workers' unions. And nobody else could have handled it based on a discussion with them. So we quickly arranged for discussions at various levels and ultimately went to the finance minister's level. So finance minister had a meeting with them, and in that meeting, that one fizzled out. That was the first intervention. The second intervention was once the Minister for Environment, Jairam Rameshji, he made a statement that coal existing below forests, they will not be permitted to be exploited. And that had an impact of 50,000 crores on the valuation of the company. So we were at just as the IPO was proceeding. So we told the finance minister, this is the situation. He immediately convened a meeting with the environment minister and the statement was withdrawn. So there is a second. Third, and very important, the IPO approval from the cabinet was not forthcoming. And every date was finalized. So on one particular evening, we were getting tensed and we didn't know what to do. So I called up his residence. Somehow the call was sent to him and he took the call. So I told him that this is the problem, the cabinet approval has still not come and therefore all the dates are now in disarray. So I don't know what happens. So he said that it will take another 3 weeks. But not stopping at that, he said, what do you think I can do to make you handle this 3 weeks of delay? Then I asked him that, well, you can authorize the selection of banks for the IPO to proceed, while the orders will be issued only after the approval, but the whole process will take about 3 weeks. He said, ask the secretary to meet me tomorrow. And that was done.
Right, so that was a critical role. So we have now come to the end of it. Finally, when can we expect your next book?
I think a person has one big book in his life.
I'm not so sure about that. Thank you very much. Thank you for talking to us, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's give it up for Partha Sarathi Bhattacharyya and Deepak Mukherji. And may I now please invite Anirban Chaudhary, consulting editor, TV9 Bangla, if he's around, to please come up on stage to felicitate our guests. Sir. Thank you, sir.